Good, now it's centered. For this occasion, this Vyasa Puja occasion, I was requested to indicate a few verses that have been a source of meditation and inspiration. So I selected some. I assume they've been circulated. And this morning I was thinking to discuss them briefly, not in depth, because they're each one in of themselves, they're very deep and substantial. So the intent this morning is not to go into them in depth, but it's to touch and appreciate some devotees are particularly adept at shloka memorization and recitation and absorption. The very sound vibration of scripture has its spiritual benefit. Everything is, as we'll be discussing this morning, everything is resting upon sound. Spiritual realization is resting upon sound. Even the material creation is resting on sound. Everything is resting on sound. So sound is a very core, essential, dynamic for self-realization, God-realization, reviving our original Krishna consciousness. And slokas have their place in that whole process. The four that I will be speaking about are, in fact, verses that regularly are contemplations. You know, some of them more in detail than others. Yesterday evening, there was one sloka, Oma Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshudan Viditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So that same message is going to spill over into these verses. We're going to start with the first verse of chapter 7, Bhagavad Gita. And we can say it responsibly. Maya sakta manak partha yogam yunjan marashayaha asamshayam samagramam yata gyasyasi tatrino. Somebody gave me a very cherished gift, one of those little, it's not a recording device, it's just a playback device that has all of Prabhupada's recorded lectures and morning walks and room conversations and everything, all in one little device. I've grown to become very attached to it. And I've been listening to the entire Bhagavad Gita series. And I heard this before, that the verse that Prabhupada spoke more than any other verse is this one. And when I heard the lectures, it went deep, because Prabhupada was very animated when speaking about it. And the different parts of it made a significant impression. I have found that this is a guiding light, something like yesterday. Ajnana Timarandasya. The darkness of ignorance can be dispelled simply by what Krishna is describing here. The asaktamana, the mind is attached to something, and what Krishna is going to explain is how the mind can become attached to him. One of the most effective means to become attached to Krishna, mind attached to Krishna, is the holy name. And one of the sure tests to see how attached to Krishna you are is start chanting japa and see if your mind is attached to the form and the sound of the holy name. And the answer to that question tells what your attachment to Krishna is, attachment of the mind to Krishna is. It takes effort, as was discussed yesterday evening. And that's the next phrase, yogam yunjan. Yogam yunjan, in the word for word, is practicing self-realization. Yogam yunjan. It's a practice of yoga, practice of linking with Krishna. And then madashraya. Madashraya is in consciousness of me. And each of the times I heard Srila Prabhupada speaking, as far as my memory goes, each time, madashraya, without fail, Prabhupada said, means consciousness of Krishna or consciousness of Krishna's representative or representatives, because there's the oneness between them, or the representative is representing Krishna. Madashraya. Madashraya. Ashraya means shelter, but Prabhupada has chosen to translate it as in consciousness of me. So there is a connection between consciousness and shelter. There's a position of consciousness of the illusory energy and consciousness of Krishna. In the prayers of Lord Brahma that we've been discussing the last 4 or 5 days, Brahma is making it very clear that consciousness of Jiva or Paramatma or Bhagavan or Swayam Bhagavan, consciousness of transcendence, dispels illusion. The illusory potency of Prakriti is dispelled by that madashraya, consciousness of Krishna. So we're going to be conscious of something, we're going to be contemplating something as important to us. And the yoga process, yogam yunjan, is to bring consciousness of Krishna back, because it's covered now in a dormant state. And then asamshayam, samshaya means doubt, and asamshaya is without doubt. Samagram mam yata gyasyasi. So samagram means completely, mam is Krishna, gyasasi. You can know Krishna in full, without a doubt. Living entity is tiny. Krishna is unlimited, so the tiny cannot understand the unlimited samagram completely, but as completely as a living entity can understand that completely. As much as Krishna discloses, and Krishna can disclose more or less according to the capacity of the living entity to receive more or less. Samagram mam yata gyasasi tatshanu. This verse, first verse of text 7, very much resembles the first verse of chapter 9. Did I say it right? The first verse of chapter 7, this tatshanu, pravakshami, is in the first verse of chapter 9. Hear from me. I will now explain. It's sound. Sound that's from Krishna connects us to Krishna. That's Madashraya. In full consciousness of that sound vibration is full consciousness of Krishna. Touch, renew. Try to hear. So here's the translation. Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Asamshaya. You can know me in full, free from doubt. So that's the goal of yoga. It's the goal of our lives, to know Krishna. That's described elsewhere. Chapter 15, the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. The purpose of our lives is to know Krishna. And forgetfulness of Krishna is where the illusory potency, illusion, the influence of forgetfulness is facilitated. The tendency for forgetfulness is facilitated by that illusory potency, and that's what we struggle with. It's not exactly we struggle with the material energy, we struggle with the illusory potency of the material energy. Because when one becomes Krishna conscious, we learn that that illusion is dissipated. It's finished. The material energy is still doing what the material energy does. The waves and whirlpools of the material energy still continue. Hurricanes continue, and calamities continue. But one's consciousness of Krishna, if one has taken full shelter of Krishna, then one need not be disturbed. Or, as in the words of Bhagavad Gita, when it's even in the face of the greatest calamity, the mind isn't disturbed. Now, this is not impersonalism. Let's go to Vrindavan and let's look at Nanda Maharaj when the twin Arjuna trees fall over. Is he in anxiety? In the parental rasa, is there anxiety over the child in Goloka Vrindavan? But it's a transcendental anxiety. And all the other emotions are transcendental emotions, quite distinct from the material ones. And what's the distinction? The distinction is the rootedness, the madashraya, the full consciousness of Krishna. Then there's variegated emotion, variegated experience that may look to the materialist, well, it's the same thing as here, so what's the difference? I mean, like a classic example, when Krishna left Vrindavan, the scene of Krishna leaving Vrindavan, according to Narada, when he's narrating it, it's so painful. One is advised, don't describe this, because if people hear this, they may think, I never want to become attached to Krishna, because then I'll have to experience those emotions. And I don't want to experience those emotions, so I won't become attached to Krishna. Then said you become attached to non-Krishna, because you're going to be attached to something. The mind is going to be attached to something. You can temporarily anesthetize the mind, but consciousness, when then the anesthesia wears off, there's again emotion. So the transcendence isn't a numbing process. Transcendence is a purification process. And Krishna is going to explain. This verse, the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are resting on this verse. Krishna is making a pledge, and he fulfills the pledge. And if one hears the how to have the mind become attached. Again, our principal way, our principal way is through sound, and specifically through the name, through chanting and hearing, touch, renew, hearing the sound of the holy name, and all the rest of Krishna's messages which are within the holy name, messages from Krishna, messages about Krishna. Just like the original preceptor of our sampradaya, Lord Brahma. Knowledge of all the Vedas, which is to know Krishna, was imparted within his heart. Tene Brahma Hrida Adi Kavaye, from his heart. But how did that knowledge come to him from his heart? It came from Krishna, but he engaged in tapa. But his tapa was meditation upon his mantra. Everything is there within the holy name, and then you can fill out the holy name through Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, messages from Krishna, messages about Krishna. That's also our touch renew. So we can understand how to chant properly, how to hear properly, how to remember properly, how to worship properly, how to pray properly, how to live our lives properly. That's through sound. Next, it follows, this is the graduate study message, very important verse, as we know. When Lord Chaitanya was discussing with Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya accepted this verse is the goal of life, expressing the goal of life and the means to reach it. That was the question. This is the answer that Lord Chaitanya accepted. And I was thinking, Ramananda Roy was a governor. And Ramananda Roy was not just a governor. We have governors that do the material business of governing. But Ramananda Roy knew scripture like at the tips of his fingers. He cited verses which were essence verses, including this one, which means he was well acquainted. He was a spiritually qualified person. If there could be such spiritually qualified persons anywhere, it would be a different place. Or experience for the, Ave Torojana, the people in general, would be a very different experience. So what are we to do? We're not governors of countries or cities or something. We're little people. But collectively, the teaching is the same for us, how we can live our lives as exemplary individuals in whatever our sphere of activities are, whether you're a school teacher or a cab driver, an engineer or a computer programmer or a book distributor or a pujari or a member of the congregation or whatever your position, that's just stane statak. Stay in your position. And here's its attention goes to the bhakti process, specifically the hearing process within the bhakti process. But the hearing is more than just sound, it's dedication of your life, whether you're a computer software person or you're a cook or you're an accountant or you're a doctor or a lawyer or a student or a, whatever you are. Dedication to that sound vibration, to the topics, is the means of, that's the way to reach the goal of life. And of course, the goal is to know Krishna. So it starts, let's chant the verse together or responsively. Jnane prayasam udapashya namanta eva. Jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam. Stane statakshutigatam tanavan manobhir. Ye prayaso jita jito pyasitais trilokyam. So there's several parts to this. I think I better go quickly because it's almost 8 o'clock already. The first part, Jnane prayasa udapasya, making endeavors, prayasa, to understand Krishna by the speculative method. Jnane prayasa udapasya is translated as throw far away. Not like just don't indulge in it, but throw it far away, udapasya. And what's left? Namanta eva. Namanta. We spent some time yesterday going a little bit more deeply into namaha from the Om Ajnana verse. Om Ajnana Timirandasya. Namanta eva. Eva means simply. Namanta eva. Simply by offering obeisances. So this offering obeisances, unpack it, and it's very active. It's not just paying obeisances. It's how you live your life. It's the mood of humility in a spiritual conception, engaging in pursuit of services in that humble mood. Namanta eva. Nice verse. Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva. Jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiya vartam. Bhavadiya vartam is translated as topics related to you. So he's speaking to Krishna. Bhavadiya vartam. Jivanti means to live. Live. Sanmukaritam. Chant those topics about you that are chanted by the pure devotees. So where we hearing sound, where we are hearing sound vibration from, is very important. And then to live in pursuit of or dedicating oneself or namanta eva, those topics. This is the means. And stane statak, stay in your position. Shruti gatam, the goal is indicated by the shrutis and by the hearing process. Tanavan manobir, body, tanu, van or vak, our speech, and mana. So body, speech, and mind, dedicated to these bhavadiya vartan, topics related to you that are heard and chanted by the pure devotees. Ye prayaso jita jito pyasi traisti lokam. One can conquer the unconquerable Krishna. Here's the translation. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and, with their body, words, and mind, offer respects, namanta, to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations. So one can dedicate their lives to these narrations, regardless of what your social position is, your occupation is, your ashram is. It's a transcendental principle. It's beyond the modes, it's beyond varnas and ashrams, it's beyond anything that's temporary. It's the soul's connection with Krishna through dedication to these wonderful topics, Bhavadiya Vartan, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees. That's this same message. This sun mukaditam. Spoken by the devotees or spoken by Krishna? Same as the previous verse. Madashraya. Shelter in Krishna's devotees. That means shelter in Krishna means the sound. Shelter in the devotees means the sound. There's the person, and the person is accessed through sound. The deeper sense of the person is accessed through sound. Certainly, this process can conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds, Trilokyam. So I'm going to focus again, as we did yesterday evening, on this word namanta eva. Somebody that was hearing these prayers of Lord Brahma asked it twice in a question. I'm trying, namanta eva, namanta eva, namanta eva, and there's so many disturbances, it's like I lose the namanta. And I lose the eva part too. It's not simply. So this namanta, eva, comes from namaha. Here's the Padma Purana reference, written by Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha. Ma represents ahankar, and na represents negation of ahankara. Thus, by uttering namaha, one negates one's independent attitude. Of course, it's not just uttering the sound, it's entering into the force and purpose and meaning of that sound, because otherwise we can mechanically say namaha or Haribol Prabhu or something like that. It's just mechanical. It's not full in devotion. That's certainly more common than full in devotion. So, the jiva is dependent on the Lord. He lives with dependence. Therefore, one should completely reject the idea of accomplishing by one's own capacity. Sounds like jnane prayasa udapasya. Nothing is left to be accomplished by the ability of the Lord. It's an interesting grammatical construction. Nothing is left to be accomplished by the ability of the Lord. One meaning, one way to understand that is, when the Lord accomplishes something, what's left? Or if you're not thinking of yourself as the doer, but you're thinking of the servant, you're fully dependent on the master, and there's nothing left for you to do. It's all being accomplished. The instrument is the instrument, and the accomplisher is the Lord. If one is in that namaha or namanta eva consciousness, consigning one's body to the Lord, one should serve him. That's namaha explanation, or namanta eva. So one who takes this position, the service position, free from false ego and doership, thinking oneself meant for the Lord's service. Very, very similar to Prahlad Maharaja's teaching in the 7th canto Bhagavatam. His expression to Lord Nrsingadev is, there isn't anything else between us than one thing. You're the master, I'm the servant, and that's it. So you indicate to me what you want, and it's my opportunity to engage in some service. So that's the namanta eva message. So let's go back to the verse. It's a nice verse. Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaditam bhavadiyavartam stanes tatakshutigatam tanavan manobir ye prayaso jitta jitopi asya taistrilokyam. This is a nice, in the course of your day, I encourage, find verses that are meaningful to you, as this one is for me. And in the course of the day, your mind can contemplate the words and the meaning of the words. And there's Shakti, there's spiritual potency, there's Bhakti Shakti within these messages of your favorite verses. So let's go forward. There's the downside. Supposing somebody doesn't hear this and doesn't heed it, then there's consequences, and there's also a resolution to those consequences. This has been a favorite verse for a long time, so let's say it together. Bhayam dutiyam abhiniveshitak syat ishadapetasya viparyayo smritihi tamaya yato buddha abhajetam bhakyaika bhatyaika yesham guru devatatma. So I'll go back. Bhayam dvatiyam abhiniveshitakshat. This word abhinivesh, my first encounter with the word abhinivesh came from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini. And in his Madhurya Kadambini, he's describing one of the obstacles on the path of bhakti. And abhinivesh is one of those obstacles. It's a general absorption in their specific desire for an object of the senses, for sense gratification. Somebody may have their favorite object or objects. And abhinivesh describes an overall propensity for material enjoyment. Abhinivesh, absorption in a pervasive sense. So when there's abhinivesh in dvitiyam, or duality, or seeing things separate from Krishna, then bhayam syat, fear arises. That's part of Maya. Fear. It's one of the core emotions in material absorption is fear. Someone can be a bully and I have no fear, and make a decal, put it on your car, and say no fear. But that's bluff, because there's fear. Bhayam dutiyam abhiniveshitak syat. Then Isha, that's the Supreme Lord, apetasya. Apetasya means one who has turned away. Apetasya, from Isha. You've turned away from the Isha. Viparyayo, then comes misunderstanding. Asmriti, you forget who you are, you forget who Krishna is. And fear is there, is predominating or pervading. Then, tan maya yato buddha abhajet. Tam, one should worship fully, abhajet, the personality of Godhead. Tan maya yato buddha abhajet tam. Then hearing from the spiritual master, or those who are representing the personality of Godhead, this is the remedy. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in abhinivesh, absorption in external illusory energy of the Lord, absorption in. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as the servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency for illusion, called Maya. Therefore, so now that was the bad side, here's the good side. Therefore, an intelligent person, this Buddha person, should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity, Devatatma, and his very life and soul. When I refer to this verse and meditate on the verse, it's largely the first part, because impetus, it goes back to the discussion from yesterday. We would not even know that we're in the darkness of illusion if it weren't for the fact that someone has come along with a torchlight of knowledge to tell us, not like, you're in illusion, it's not like that. But we're in illusion and suffering unnecessarily and don't even know it, like an animal. Listen to Prabhupada's lectures, and he's very explicit. You know, most people don't get it. Think you're talking about somebody else, not them. He's talking about them. Living our lives in ignorance of who we really are. And so part of understanding who you are is to understand you don't know who you are. And you've accepted somebody who you're not to be who you are, and therefore an illusion. And in illusion, thinking so many things and feeling so many things and being tossed around by the waves of the material energy, getting seasick sometimes and having horrible experiences. And it's usually not a smooth ride. And it's all unnecessary. So this first half is important to understand. The bucket's got a hole in it, and a lot of holes in it. And we should look for another bucket. You know, the reality bucket. And the reality bucket says, the bucket, this other one's got holes in it. You forget yourself, you forget Krishna, you feel fearful, you're in illusion. So don't make the mistake. Rather, therefore, be intelligent. And where the intelligence comes from those who are very kindly helping you to restore your intelligence. This is our process. Hear and engage in serving those from whom you're hearing. We're going to discuss this particular point midday. You know, more strongly, more completely. So that's the downside of what these first two verses are speaking about. If you don't hear it and neglect it, it's not a pleasant ride. And there's a cure. And those who take the cure, there's further mystery waiting. And so, because of covering these chapters from the 10th canto, including the Damodar Leela during the Kartik month, I have become particularly fond of this verse. Nachantar nabihir yasya. Anta and Bahir. The Supreme Lord has no interior, no exterior. Na purvam, napi chaparam. Let's go to the translation. The Supreme Personality Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all-pervading. Now this is Shukadeva Goswami speaking, after having narrated the pastime of Mother Jasoda trying to bind Krishna, and she's not successful, and then finally she binds Krishna. She can't bind Krishna because he's all-pervading. How can you put a rope around something that's all-pervading? You can't. I mean, you can try, but it's not doable. Not doable. It's not possible. Because he's all-pervading. Then, because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there is no difference between past, present, and future. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times. He manifests and then not manifests. He has his birth and he disappears, performs pastimes. But he's beyond time. He's doing things apparently within the purview of time, but he is existing beyond time. This is Shukadeva Goswami narrating truth about Krishna. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times, being absolute, beyond relativity. He is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. You know, it's another bewildering, seeming contradiction, apparent contradiction, beyond cause and effect, but he's the source of cause and effect. He's a mysterious person. He can't be brought under the control of any material force, including Mother Jasoda's robe. That unmanifested person of Yaktam, that unmanifested person who is beyond the perception of the senses, had now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. There's this Gopi Utkala. Gopi is Mother Jasoda. She's not referred to by name, but Gopi. Utkala Damna. She bound him around the waist with a rope. So this tells us that the particular appreciation for this verse is the theme in the whole 10th canto, the Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan in particular, in 10th canto, is the love of the residents of Vrindavan, Mother Jasoda in this case being particularly pointed out, is so strong that connects to the one who can be conquered is conquered. He's conquered not by something material, he's conquered by the love of the residents of Vrindavan. He's controlled by them. The Supreme Controller is controlled. And he's controlled by his own volition. He doesn't give up his free will, or he doesn't have a power greater than him. But bhakti is a power that he submits to, just like Radharani is one who Krishna submits to. And there's many pastimes where Krishna enjoys submitting to Radharani. He enjoys. And she's not like, a controlling lady that says, aha, now this is good, you're controlled by me. It's not, it's love. It's not the material perverted reflection. Next weekend, by Krishna's kindness, assume everything happens, I'm going to spend some time, a 4-part seminar series on Govardhan Prikrama. And one of the pastimes, one of the many pastimes, is the tax pastime, Dan Lila, or Danakeli. We all know Danakeli Mataji. So the pastime of tax, Dan. And at the end of that tax pastime at Govardhan, which would take place many times, it wasn't just one time, but this particular time, the end of the pastime is Radha is placed on a throne and Krishna worships her as the queen of Vrindavan by the side of Divartan Kund. He enjoys worshipping Radha. And there's a pastime where he's not. He's apparently not. But it's just love sport. And, worldly people don't have an appreciation, certainly can't understand Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, how he enjoys the love of his devotees and reciprocates according to the nature of that love and intensity of their love. And in Vrindavan, that love is so intense that he who is of this transcendental position, na chantayar, na bahir yasya, etc., Mother Jasoda doesn't see any of that. He shows that to her, and she doesn't see any of that because of the intensity of her love, and she binds him. And she can't bind him without his allowing that. And he allows that because of her love. It's just a loving pastime, showing the greatness and the glory of her love, and showing the greatness and glory of Krishna, who submits to the love of his devotees. And he loves submitting to the love of his devotees. And there's all kinds of emotion there, all kinds. So don't expect milquetoast or, bland, Vaikuntha, where there's no emotion, there's no all varieties of emotion. It's not like that, but it's all centered on Krishna. So our lives, back to the first verse, the Bhagavad Gita verse, is to pass through the circumstances of life. And it's not too difficult to say, this is a particularly turbulent time. Of course, there's other places in the world where it's less turbulent. There's war-torn and all kinds of things going on. It's pretty turbulent, right over in this place, in many ways. So how to pass through turbulent times if you're not attached to Krishna? And how to become attached to Krishna? It's through sound. And not just, mechanical sound, but devotional dedication. Sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartam. These teachings are there within Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to gently carry us to the realm of transcendence through turbulent times, and to deal in appropriate ways, because Krishna will give intelligence how to deal in the best appropriate way that you can think of, how to deal with turbulence, while never leaving the lotus feet of Krishna, not for anything. Clinging more strongly, more genuinely, more deeply to the lotus feet of Krishna. So these are teachings that I find are particularly meaningful and sources of meditation. So I thought I would share that this morning. And it's 8:24. Let's see if there's some discussion.
I have 3 questions, Maharaj. I don't know how much I can ask.
Just do one.
Okay, let me start with the one which is really. Let's start with the one which is really affecting my consciousness. It's a middle question. Brahma, you told us that Sanmakaritam, and you told how the sound vibration is important. And Brahma, just by sound vibration, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye, he created the universe. And we also learned that 4 verses, essential verses, Aham Evasam Eva Agre, Ret Artham Yat Pratyeta Yatamahanti Bhutani, and Eta Vadeva Jignasham. That the 4 verses only Krishna spoke to Brahmaji. And he elaborated those verses, and he understood the Vraja form of Krishna.
He understood the Braja form of Krishna.
Yeah. Let me finish.
To a degree he understood, yes. In his prayers, I'm interrupting, but to a degree he understood, to a degree he didn't understand. He had a limited understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes.
That's the very first verse of his prayers to Krishna. I don't understand this form of yours. He's seeing it. He's seeing the form. He's appreciating that it's Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. And he says, I don't understand it. And I don't understand the happiness either. He knows that he has happiness. He knows that his happiness is, but he doesn't understand it. So, limited.
So he is understanding, but limited form. So even after seeing Krishna stealing, so he was stealing the cowherd boys and cows, and he's seeing the cowherd form of Krishna, still his understanding was limited.
Yes, naturally so. The limited, how to understand the unlimited. And there's a certain mood of love that Brahma has that's not the same as the residents of Vrindavan. And the glory, one of the glories of the residents of Vrindavan is they don't understand his opulence in the way that Brahma understands his opulence. They don't see him as the source of everything. They don't see him that way. They see him as their son or their dear friend or their lover. They don't see him in these other ways. He shows, and they process it some other way because of the intensity of the. So he doesn't understand like they understand. He understands that they understand like he doesn't understand. He has knowledge, but he doesn't have the bhav.
Amazing.
And he knows he doesn't.
That's true.
And he wants to. That's his saying. It's in the first verse and it comes later.
Yes.
I wish to attain you. This word was used yesterday evening, apati. Jiva Goswami uses the word to attain, attaining, apati. And sharanapati, attaining the position of sharana. And Brahma is surrendered, but he doesn't have the same surrender that the residents of Vrindavan have. So he wants that.
Thank you so very much. It makes so much clearer. Am I allowed to ask second question or no?
No, let's go. We'll come back if there's time. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, and I want to glorify something in you that how is that? How are you able to know the mind of others? Like, for example, of mine, today what a wonderful thing happened. Just before coming to here, I was just reading one verse from 11th canto.
From where?
11th canto.
11th canto.
Yeah, it's very nice verse. That exact verse you are explaining here today. So that verse is telling fear, distraction, illusion, and what else? Illusions, and so many things others. It is the part of, or the characteristic of false ego. Then they are exact same thing you explain here, fear and everything. So I was wondering how you are able to know and what is the connection between, and how you, in one time you told also in your Bhagavatam class that it is because of super soul. So
That is what? What was the last part?
Super soul. So I was wondering, is it not some mystic power that a devotee, like pure devotees, they get by way of, by devotional, executing devotional service, something like that?
Yes, something like that. It's the whole thing. The whole thing is a mystery. To be honest, the whole thing is a mystery. I mean, how it works is a mystery, but it works. So with faith in this word mystery, it's a play that Prabhupada uses to describe devotional service as a mystery. That Second canto, chapter 3, mystery. Mystery of devotion. So how it works, it's a mystery, but it works. And with faith, then there's a relationship, and I don't need to understand the mystery. I participate in it. And it's somehow mysterious.
When you explained 7.1, you said Bhagavad Gita, middle 6 chapters, Krishna is making a pledge and he's keeping the pledge.
Yes.
So can you explain what's the pledge?
The pledge is, I am going to explain to you how to come to this platform. Maya Saktamanak Yogam Yunjan Varashraya. So I'm going to explain to you how. So he does. I mean, volumes and volumes and volumes more, but can be expressed or written, but he gives the essence, and the essence is there. He fulfills his pledge. How to? Bhakti. And bhakti has different elements, and so that's the how to. That's the means to achieve the goal. That's connected to the next verse that I referred to. How to, the goal of life and how to achieve it. Okay?
Thank you.
Online, please.
This is from Yamuna Jivan. Bhagavad Gita 7.1 speaks that the goal is to know Krishna. Other verses mention the goal of life is to be attached to Krishna or to love Krishna. Some speak the goal is to attain his nature or his abode. Is there a qualitative difference if a devotee sharpens their personal goal to be one or another of the above mentioned goals?
My answer to that is two things. The orientation of heart is the sharpening process. And as long as the orientation of heart is consistent with Siddhanta, you're fine. And second is, what may be your focus of goal in the present time may shift to a different emphasis amongst the list that you just gave, and that's just fine. That's the bhava or the mood or the inspiration that you have towards Krishna and Krishna shelter. It may change over time, but make sure it aligns with scripture.
Kumarika Devidasi. Yesterday you said that first we should receive the fullness of mercy. What should we do to receive the fullness of the mercy of the spiritual master?
Open your heart, make it clean, and be eager. And it's gradual, like the rising of the sun. Next.
Somya Mataji, the absorption and relishing scriptures in my spiritual master is very attractive for me. Is that okay to meditate and hanker for little taste?
That's a comment, not a question.
No, the question is it okay for her to
Oh
meditate?
yeah, that's called following in the footsteps. That was yesterday evening's discussion, following in the footsteps. Follow in the footsteps. And by that inspiration of what you described will help you feel deeper attraction to go beyond mechanical into the devotional realm.
Rupa Vilas Das. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:1, you can know me in full, but elsewhere in chapter 10, he says no one knows me. So what do we understand about Samagram in 7:1?
Well, he's in chapter 10, his explanation of those that no one knows me, and then he proceeds to disclose himself right after that, or shortly after that statement. He's referring to the list of people that don't understand him. That is to say, one can understand him by the bhakti process, not otherwise.
Why is it difficult to maintain faith in Krishna's merciful nature when we face difficulties in life and not have a doer's mentality? That's Ram Raghava.
Well, our dear friend, false ego, our lifelong companion and best buddy. So that's why.
Last question, I think. Janami Jai Satyavrata Das. How does a devotee feel completely sheltered and connected with Guru and Krishna?
How? How does the devotee feel connected? Well, from the heart. And if you act from the head, you won't. Okay, I think okay, yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Mask, so I can hear you better? Thanks.
Apparently, one of the qualities of God is never to understand Him. We're always doing things and reading and learning, but we are always going to be 2 fingers short to try to understand the mystery of God and the mystery of His greatness. For as much as we do, we're not ever going to understand Him.
Does that make you feel uncomfortable?
No, actually keeps on pushing me to learn more about
Okay.
Him. I know I am not going
Okay,
to
so now the punchline.
understand Him, and that mysterious aura around that impossibility to grasp Him keeps me going.
Okay, so that you're making a comment. Is there a question connected?
It's a comment.
It's a comment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Get used to it. Supposing that lovely day comes that you become eligible for entrance into Vrindavan, you attain Braja Prem. Supposing that lovely day comes, and you'll also be in the same space. Get very comfortable with not knowing. And that's always, but the merciful Krishna then becomes bound by such love, although it may not look like it, or it may not even feel like it. Krishna leaves Vrindavan, and they're not just the gopis, everyone's brokenhearted. So the 2 fingers too short applies there also. But it's not that Krishna is cruel or that that they're smashed. It's explained. Even when Krishna is explaining to Uddhava, they're experiencing ecstasy. It's a type of ecstasy. Now that's another mystery. The 2 fingers too short mystery. Krishna is bound by their love, by being not present. And that's the two fingers too short in a very unusual manifestation. But that's part, as we read that verse from Padma Purana, we are dependent. We're always, dependence is our existence. We have free will, even we're dependent. But it's always two fingers too short. But Krishna mercifully makes himself conquered for one who has such love in mysterious ways. The mystery of devotional service, the mystery of one's relationship with Krishna. Get used to it at higher levels of realization. Gokulananda, you have something? Okay. Parama Karuna, you're next.
You're quoting that verse, Maya Asakta Manapratha, and when you're giving the meaning of Mad Ashraya, means shelter of Krishna, and more specifically, the shelter of representative of Krishna. And when you're giving a lecture, I was thinking that this is more impersonalism, and you told, don't consider it as impersonalism. And then you quoted how Nand Maharaj is worried about Krishna. And so that level for Mad Ashraya is more on the Prema Ruda platform, where the people are really totally involved in Krishna Prema.
Yeah.
But when the people are the level of sadhaka, they have to hear from the speaker. Specifically, I'm using the word speaker because I'm sorry, this is a doubt which I'm facing from a long time. Let's say the speaker is speaking about Samagra Mam, that surrender to Krishna, and he may not be at the level of Prema Ruda or higher level, but he's speaking from the disciplic succession that this is a way to surrender to Krishna. Is it possible for a hearer to get the proper description or knowledge from that speaker, and his surrenderance become solid to Krishna?
Two things. Yes, because it's Krishna speaking. And the second thing is that if the transmission, in the example that you're giving, if the transmission is not 10% pure, Krishna will assist you to get that which is 10% pure. He will help you along the path of bhakti up to the stage of being with him. That's for sure.
Clears it out. The 4 verses you quoted, you started from Maya Asakta, and second verse you quoted Jnanena Prayasa Udapasya.
Yes, yeah.
And then third one you quoted Bhayam Dvitiya. And all these verses, the most important thing was absorption in Krishna's katha.
Yes.
And the last verse you quoted is Nacha Antar Na Bahiryasya. It's a great way to end the class. Nothing is, I'm sorry, but can we conclude this more in impersonalist way also?
Can be what?
Can we conclude this verse in a more impersonalist way? Nacha antar nacha bahiryasya. He is not in and not out, but still we get bound by Vrajvasis. But Vrajvasi doesn't care for that, right?
What is the what? Speak slower.
Vrajvasis, they don't care for he's inside or outside, or I'm trying to understand that this last verse.
It's part of Braja Prem. I selected it purposefully at the end because it inspires me, and there's volumes of commentary on this verse and referred to in other places about this verse that has to do with 2 things. It has to do with the inconceivable, unlimited and inconceivable potencies of Bhagavan. So the other way. Bhagavan has unlimited and inconceivable potencies. Bhagavad Sandarbha is expanding on that simple point. A vast part of it is to understand samagram. One must accept that there's potencies within Krishna that are contradictory and inconceivable. and unlimited, contradictory and inconceivable and unlimited. And that's part of understanding Krishna. So that which is inconceivable, you can't understand, but you can accept in principle, unlimited and inconceivable and contradictory simultaneously. There are such potencies. And one may not understand all that about Krishna, as the residents of Vrindavan may not understand about Krishna. They just see him with such intensity of love. So there's the majesty or opulence, and there's the sweetness. And their sweetness is so strong, it just eclipses the majesty. And they're existing simultaneously. He can't be bound, and then he can be bound. And it's resting upon him. His Ichha Shakti, his desire makes this happen or that happen. And it's very fluid, and it's his happiness, and he loves the happiness with his devotees. And circling back to the first verse of this 14th chapter, Brahma says, I don't understand. He knows, but he doesn't understand in the experiential sense. So, and that's the mystery, that's the beauty of Braja Prem. And the gift of the Bhagavatam is to give us that. The gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to give us that. The gift of chanting the holy name is to give us that. We're not there yet, but we can get a sense of it from our proper chanting and from the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, assisted by our founder Acharya and the predecessor Acharyas. It's very sublime. Braja Prem is very sublime. Do we have something more online? Go ahead.
Yeah, we have two more. Raghava Srinivas Bhatt. Maharaj is thinking of oneself as one's initiated name from the false ego. For example, thinking of myself as Bob, or whatever my birth name is false ego. But then after initiation, if I think of myself as that name, is that also false ego?
No, it's not. It's if you put das at the end, it's not. Next.
Sumantra Das. In one of the verses you are discussing, that one cannot accomplish anything on one's own capacity. Suppose if one tries to accomplish something believing that the capacity he or she has only with reference to the Lord, is that possible to accomplish anything then?
We accomplish through so there's Krishna consciousness and at the absence of Krishna consciousness. Now, obviously, in this world, people are doing things. We're in a building that was built by the Masons. We bought it from, the people that owned it before us, but it was built by the Masons. So they built this building. They did something through their efforts, and it wasn't a Krishna conscious effort, most likely. I mean, something about God, but not a Krishna conscious effort, most likely. So you can do things and achieve results, and there's bondage to those things and the results, and trying to be the enjoyer of the results. And that's the illusion of material existence. Liberation from that illusion of material existence is not that, well, after all, Krishna is the doer, I can't do anything, so I'll just sip lemonade and lie in a hammock, and the books will be distributed, and the deities will worship themselves, and the offerings will be cooked by themselves. And so we make some endeavor, prayasa, we make some endeavor that's with acknowledgement that this endeavor alone isn't what's making the thing happen. There's 5 factors to action. One of them, chapter 18, Bhagavad Gita. One of them is effort, or prayasa. We must. Devotional service requires we make some effort. But we're not the creator of the result. That's for sure. Although we may think we are. but we're not the creator of the result. We can be instruments. So I'm not sure I'm answering the question. I'm just describing the difference between material doership and spiritual instrumentality. In either case, there's results, but who is the enjoyer of the results, and how, and what through what energy of Krishna is the result being manifest, spiritual or material energy. So there's a distinction of effort or work, bhakti on one side and karma on the other. Okay? Is that it? Okay, we're going to end. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.